Hey y'all, a little early in the afternoon or evening, I guess, for one of these lives, but I know me too well, and I'll get wrapped up and busy, and dark will be here before I know it in this old garden. I hadn't been on in a while, but thank y'all for following along on the Washboard Chronicles, sharing the different stories, just the simple stuff. This is more of the same. So if you want complicated, you're probably not going to get it here. Look at Ruby. That's the puppy we still have on the place. The other three have good, permanent, safe, good homes. But this is the one that was born with a little heart on her butt. This is Sissy's protege, and she is taking over and coming into her own out here. She followed me around on the tractor yesterday all day and doesn't like me getting out of her sight. With that old road down there, I keep her in the fenced backyard at night when I'm away because we don't want any tragedies at all. Sissy's pretty much learned her ropes on that, but this one's still got a ways to go. But she's guarding the chickens and the goats and all the critters. They're doing a fine job. I'm playing a little bit of goat garden roulette right now. I've got the goats out grazing, and they're browsers. If I was a goat, I'd be all over this garden, but they're down there on the fence line taking care of the briars and all of that. So I got to keep kind of a steady watch on them. I got a little white one following me around. It might stumble on a pea plant or two. I may have to throw a stick at it, so we'll see. Y'all sound off where you're at, and we'll read the comments here in a minute. As I go along, it's kind of hard in the sun to see in real time, but I'll scroll back through here shortly, find out where all we're got folks listening from. I think we're about 67,000 light bearers, I like to call them, because if you're following, I don't like that term. It ain't about following. There's that little white goat. I was up here. I had marked this spot with an old jar, and I've got several places on it. It looks like it's about done. Y'all know what a sensitive briar is? Some of you will when I show you. It's about done, so it's hard to find it, but it puts on a little purple flower. It's a variety of mimosa, but you touch the leaves. I remember as a kid, you touch the leaves and they'll close up, and it's pretty neat. But I was thinking a lot about that plant and weeds, and we did this garden a little bit different this year. We've got big wide furrows that we keep mowed real short, and that's really controlled the erosion on this place. And we'll walk it here in a minute, but y'all can see that old garden's coming along good. Bart, poor thing, can't hear, can't see, but he loves it outside. He's looking for me now. All he has is his nose. I smell pretty bad, but I'm downwind right now, so he'll find me in a minute. But weeds, actually, and this is something I learned. Of course, everything has a purpose in God's creation. I'm convinced of that. Even the weeds bloom where you planted. For instance, this little sensitive briar, it grows. Well, there's a piece of it there. I don't know if you can tell, but those little leaves have closed up already. But it actually affixes nitrogen back in the soil. A lot of plants do that we call weeds. For instance, an old dandelion, where you see it growing, it's usually an indicator that the soil is a little bit impacted and maybe even low in nitrogen. So as that dandelion grows, puts down that big taproot, it kind of aerates the soil a little bit. And then as it decomposes, it affixes the much needed nitrogen that the other plants need back into the soil. Yeah, it's just a little bit off of one plant, but every little bit helps, don't it? If nothing else, it's an indicator of maybe what you need to amend the soil with. I've let these elderberry rows go a little bit here. They're not weeded there, but you can see that's a cutting we put out this spring, and they are absolutely doing phenomenal. I'm excited about that as we expand this old orchard. But blooming where you're planted, I see things sometimes in the most simplistic of stuff. I was at a softball game here a few weeks ago. It's a playoff here, a local couple little schools, and something hit me. Not a ball, but that's kind of the point. As I was watching them play, and y'all have seen it at sports events and things of that nature, where every time a play is done by a team, the fans of that team go wild. Home run, whatever it might be, good play. But when a player gets injured, maybe it's a wild pitch that hits them on the shoulder, God forbid the face, or maybe it's just on their wrist, kind of knocks them down for a second, and they take a base. It gets mighty quiet in those stands. It's both sides watch to see if that person's going to be okay. And when they give that thumbs up, everybody goes wild. Both sides, whether they're a fan or an opponent, they're happy to see that recovery and that person's going to be all right. And that's what I mean about being where you're planted, blooming there. Sometimes we can be a silent witness just with our life. All of us have a lot of struggles that hit us, and some of them are more severe than others, but we've got folks watching us. Yeah, our fans cheer us on, win or lose, but maybe it's that coworker or that person you see from time to time that found out that you've got hope in the midst of cancer or a broken home or loss of a job or just a bad day. They still see the joy in your face, right? Kind of encourages them to keep plugging along. It's hard to do that without faith in God sometimes, I think, but that's our own free choice. He gave it to us. You know, he's so much in control that he doesn't mind us making our own choices, because his will prevail in the end. You know, he sent his son to die for us. We've heard the story, a lot of us know it, but I'd heard a story that really drove that home for me in a different light. At the turn of the century, not this last one, a little further back than that, there was a very rich millionaire, would have been a billionaire in today's terms. Well, he had amassed quite a wealth of art, different things that were collectible and desired by so many. And he had a son. Son was the joy of his life, only child. He loved his son so much, he just adored him. And he commissioned a really high-end painter to paint a portrait of that boy. And that was a high-dollar thing back in that day. Big portrait hung on the wall. The little boy turned about 8 and contracted tuberculosis and died shortly after that. Absolutely broke his dad's heart. Crushed him. He grieved for years. Finally, he contracted cancer and was in his final days and trying to figure out what he was going to do with his estate with no heir. And he decided he would auction it all off and let the public have it and bless a trust or however it happened. But the auctioneer came to him and said, well, how do you want to do this? He said, well, I'd like to start with the least expensive item first and then go to the most expensive item, if you would. He said, okay, well, what do you think's the least expensive item you own? He said, well, you know, the portrait of my son meant so much to me, but I don't think anybody cares to have it, not knowing him. Why don't we make that the first thing on the auction block? Auctioneer wrote it down, made it so. A couple of months passed, the man died, and crowds came from all over to this big estate auction looking for a deal, looking to get something of this amassed fortune from this man. Auctioneer got up with that portrait of the son. Everybody looked around, didn't know what in the world it was or why it was there. And he started off saying, anybody give me $100 for this portrait? Nobody raised their hand. It rocked along, and he went to 75 and then to 50. Finally got to $20. Anybody got a $20 bill to take this thing home so we can move forward with the auction? Nobody. He said, well, we've got to move on, so I guess I'm going to have to give it away. Does anybody even want it? Just free, I'll give it to you. One old man in the back is the butler for that man, a man of color. Didn't have much, but he loved that old man and had been with him all his life. He raised his hand, he said, I don't have any money. I don't know what I've done to deserve it, but I'd sure like to have that painting there. So the auctioneer banged his gavel, said, the auction is closed. Well, everybody started murmuring, didn't understand what was going on as he passed that painting on to the butler of so many years, faithful servant of that man. Everybody clamored and asked the auctioneer what had happened. He said, well, you see, it's simple. My instructions were that whoever bought that painting of his son, whoever accepted his son, got all the riches. So everything that man had went to that butler because he accepted that son's portrait. Isn't that a beautiful analogy of what Christ did for us on that day? Ruby thinks so. She came running up here. Oh, this isn't hot, by the way, if y'all wonder why I'm touching it. It's just a visual barrier for these goats. I don't think it'd hold them if I wasn't here, but it helps me contain them. Beautiful thing that sacrifice. This garden is coming on, y'all. I worried over it and had anxiety. Did I do it right at the right time? And I did my part, and the rest of it's coming on. We've had a few different situations over the last actually couple of weeks. Of course, they're all the time in life where some specific praying was needed for some needs from animals to family. And both situations worked out just as beautiful as they could. But I was talking to my sister, and I said, you know, we all prayed that this would be all right, but I'm afraid we didn't pray as much as we worried about it. Sure, it's a good thing we worried enough for God to fix it. Why do we do that? Sit around and worry and worry and worry when we're saying we trust Him to get it done. I guess that's the way it goes with fear and anxiety. Old boy walking down a country road way back in the day before they had street lights, and all they had was a little lantern. He's strolling along at night, and a little old candle, or his lantern, went out. He didn't know the area. He was trying to make it home. And he's trying to head toward the nearest farmhouse he could see up ahead. That old pitch black night. Stumbled, fell, broke the lantern, and fell over a cliff. So he was sliding a little bit there. He grabbed onto a branch and held on for his life. He just knew the end of his days was upon him. Well, he sat there and he cried for help. And of course, nobody around to hear him. He cried and cried and cried, holding on to that branch. His arm started to weaken. He knew it was the end. Finally, he couldn't hold on anymore. All that fear and anxiety and loss of strength had overtaken him. He let go of that branch and fell 6 inches to the bottom of a ditch that he didn't know was a ditch. Isn't that us so many times? Worried about the big booger bear in the woods when ain't nothing out there but a little armadillo. Oh, goodness. Well, it's hot. It ain't even summer yet. I'll show y'all these tomatoes real quick. Y'all tired of hearing me ramble? We'll go over here and look. The old goats, I'm impressed. I let them out to graze a little bit. And that was the whole thing. Let me show you here if I can. Well, the sun's so bright. My poor little old blue eyes, that's a curse on me that I can't see nothing. Here, I think this ain't turning around. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, I strung that they got over that electric fence. I ain't scared of it no more, but I needed something just to kind of give me a few extra seconds to get to them if they decided to go to the garden. So it's working out all right. But old place looks good mowed. Y'all look at that garden. Isn't that neat? Different concept than I've ever seen, but it's sure working good. Tomatoes are coming on. I'm pretty frugal as much as I can be. Dad asked me the other day, did I get tomato steaks? He asked from Lowe's or Home Depot. I said, neither, Dad. There's a cabinet shop up the road here that's got a bunch of scraps they throw out in a pile and burn once a month. So I went on up there and asked them. Of course, they don't need them. Wasn't worried about them. So this is high dollar tomato steak. Some of it's birch wood and high dollar cabinet wood, but it's making ketchup out here. And pinto beans are coming on. About time to pick those pretty soon. You can see they're starting to speckle. Of course, they'll need to yellow out a little bit and brown up, but these plants are loaded. Got about 10 per bush, so we're going to have plenty of frijoles. I can tell you that. Watermelons are running a little behind, so probably won't have any for July 4th, but we'll have some after the fact, right? Let me pop up in this shade if I can keep Ruby from licking me to death. We'll do a quick roll call with my spectacles and call it an afternoon, right? Hope all of y'all are doing well and looking forward to a good week, month, weekend, year, or day, right? That's all we have promised to us. There we go. Old Bart, he likes staying around Sissy or Ruby because those are his eyes. He knows if they're around, it's all right. I hadn't been watching them goats like I need to, but they're fine. Yeah, you gonna keep them where they belong, huh, Ruby? Huh? I heard tell her little sister went to a good buddy of mine. He called me this morning, and these dogs ain't got no training, but it's in their nature. And he's got them out there with his goats, and she's just the sister to this one, so young. And he was trying to haul them goats back up to the pen, and that dog took off after them goats and barked at them and got them all the way back up to the barn. Said he ain't never seen nothing like it. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? All right, let me see if I can see any of these comments. Well, I got to stand up because she's going to lick me to death. Where are the comments? Here we go. Nope. Well, Facebook's done changed this thing up on me, y'all. Looks like I'm going to have to respond after the fact, because I'll try one other thing. Well, oh, here we go. There we go. All right, let me scroll up and see who all's on here real quick. Let's see. Oh, I got to take that silly message off of there about stars and all that. I really appreciate that stuff, but that ain't what it's all about. I didn't realize it's still posting that with these videos. Let's see. There's Larry Wells out in Centerville, Texas, saying good evening. Y'all, I'm going to have to beg forgiveness on this. I can't read these in this light. The phone screens went dark. But I will sit down this evening and tomorrow morning and go over all your comments and where you're from. And that always encourages me to keep going. Got to show you all this. They'll be getting after it soon. But probably my favorite pepper plant for eating, I guess, yeah, they're mighty hot. But the beauty of them as they get big, I don't know if y'all have ever done them, but Tabasco pepper plant right there. It makes a big bush more than a jalapeno, like a stalk. So this will make a bush yay big, Lord willing. And the peppers on it are so beautiful. I mean, you got red and yellow and green and different shades of orange. And it looks ornamental, but it's just old Tabasco peppers. Well, you ain't got to worry about nothing eating these tomatoes, right? Ain't nobody gonna get those tomatoes, are they? Between Bart and Ruby. Sissy's on patrol at the front. But I'm gonna get these goats fed and put up before they feed themselves on that corn. I had one of them get a little loose the other day, and she made it up to that first corn row. I couldn't. Of course, they'll move around, but I mean, I don't have fearful goats. We got a pretty peaceful place here, so I'm hollering at her, and she didn't know what that meant. And she had one of them corn stalks in her mouth, and I'm throwing sticks, and she didn't know what she'd done wrong, but she made it all the way up that hill with that corn stalk. But I guess I'll let them have one. You reckon? Oh, she didn't know what she'd done wrong, but she got away with the corn stalk. That's all that mattered. Is that right, Ruby? She don't want to be far from me, y'all. That's all right. Well, y'all have a good afternoon and good rest of the week. We're almost to the halfway point, aren't we? Good visiting again. Looks like I'm going to have to wait till in the evening. It's just too hot for these at this time of the day. And it ain't going to get no cooler anytime soon. We're blessed. Hope y'all make a difference around you. Bloom where you planted. Right? That's right. Be the light. We'll talk to you soon.